What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Leaving the Comfort Zone. This is Richard Rodriguez with.
Co-host Hector Marmol. What up?
Hey, man, let's get to it. I think this topic today definitely kind of flows over from episode 4 about being yourself. I know talking to Hector, we thought it would be a good idea to just kind of go back into our roots, man. Kind of why we are the way we are. Shout out to the dogs. Hector's dogs are dope.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think the topic today, man, generational moves is important just because like, I think part about you being yourself and me being myself is really respecting and appreciating who came before us, kind of what they transferred over to us, and why that's made us the way we are today, and kind of.
100%. I feel like the fuel that adds to the fire with us is understanding that we grew up in this country, understanding what our parents did for us, but also being aware and understanding what we could do better for families to come. If that makes sense to you.
Nah, it does. It does, and I hope it makes sense to everybody listening because just being able to appreciate what's obviously you don't want to look into the past too much and to the future too much because I know you're big on being present. But
Yeah, my mom's from Santo Domingo. My dad's from San Jose de la Mata. Shout out to Mata Grande.
I don't know where the fuck that is, but it's somewhere in DR.
Picture Avatar. That's what it looks like.
Yikes, that's a
It's in the
This
montes.
man said Avatar. That's crazy. What was your in terms of your family, your size? I know I kind of want to hear about their reason for maybe coming. Were they born here? Were they born there?
No, they were born there.
Okay.
I believe my dad was the first of his immediate family to come over here. So it was his mom, his 5 brothers,
Okay.
and 1 sister. And
Yeah, that's a lot of them.
Yeah, and his dad actually ended up passing away at like 33 years old
Okay.
in a motorcycle accident. So he stepped up and was just the leader of the household. And then he came over here to this country. And it was funny because when he actually came here, he came to live with his uncles. And he told his uncles, hey, I want to go to school. I want to learn English.
Yeah.
And they told him, you didn't come to this country to go to school. You came to this country to work.
Oh shit.
So like the thing that I want to kind of tap into is kind of the mindset of making the sacrifices that our families have and how it's impacted us and how now we kind of leverage that same hustle, leverage that same work ethic. And I want to wrap it over to you and say, what do you feel like you've gained from that mindset from your parents coming here and doing what they've done for your family?
Nah, they've definitely. I think all our parents in general, no matter where you're from, have a big impact on who you are, kind of how you're raised. I think even like organically, just like without them trying, they just have a certain amount of influence on your life and how you walk and how you talk. Like people joke around with me saying that I'm exactly like my father, because we literally sit the same, we walk almost the same, like we laugh almost the same, and like I've started to realize it now as I'm getting older. Like oh shit, like I'm dead ass. This man's twins. Like shout out to Sion Daddy. Yo, I love you. You're probably listening in here eventually. But everybody who knows Sion Daddy, that dude's a legend. He's one of a kind. He's one of those pops, man, that like he's his age. He knows his age, but like still kind of a young, trying to be a young dude. Like he's a funny guy. Right. But on a more serious note, man, he is the hardest working man I know. He jokes around. Like I was just telling him yesterday. He always says like why would I ever retire? Like why? What am I gonna do? Like that's boring. I'm gonna get fat. I'm gonna get even more old. Like, so he jokes around. Like I really don't know if he's gonna retire. Even when he does get up to that age, where retirement age, like he might still be working, but that's just his mentality, and that says a lot about him. The dude's a mechanic, fixed cars in DR when he was there in his teens. He's another one that didn't get to graduate from college, finish high school, but kind of just had to provide for the family. Like it was him, a couple brothers, a couple family members. But in terms of like work ethic and mentality, I think he had it a little more stronger mindset of like, yo, like I gotta step up, as opposed to like his siblings. His siblings are all good people, like my uncles and stuff are all cool people. But you could just when you have a conversation with my dad about like that's the type of stuff of like his family and all that and having to provide, like he's just different, man. Like he's like survival mode 24/7 about like I can't slack because they got people depending on me. And that's just him being young. This is teenage years I'm talking about. So he was a mechanic in DR, man. Worked hard, saved up some money, knowing that I was gonna come into the picture very soon. They were like, "Yo, we gotta go to New York." Why they chose New York, I don't know, but I'm super grateful they did because like being from Brooklyn, man, has helped me out a lot. But yeah, them knowing that I was coming, I think chose or created the reason for them coming here to the States because of the opportunity. And I think that's what you wanted to hit on is more of like them leaving their country for a better opportunity here in the States.
Yeah, 100%. And kind of just that big of a sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's leaving the ultimate comfort zone because you're leaving your country, you're leaving family.
That's a fact.
For an opportunity that you have in your head, and that's kind of what I want to acknowledge because that's exactly what emulates here. Now, obviously, starting a podcast is less of a risk than leaving the country, but that it passes through generation to generation as far as how they think. So my dad came here to work. Within 2 years of him being in this country, he started his own business.
Wow.
So, and that was landscaping. And that went from landscaping to doing decks and fences and a lot of like outer house construction. And then even that kind of thinking that passed on into my uncle, who now has his signs and service business where he's creating. They do anywhere from business cards to websites to car wraps to store signs. Anything you see Red Mango, Planet Fitness, like he made that in his shop. So that kind of emulates how thinking is passed down just like genes are. Mindset is passed down just like genes are. So I want to say shout out to anybody who comes from immigrant families. If you haven't taken the time out just to thank them, or even just think about the things that they've been through to put you in the situation that you're in, then take 5 minutes of silence and reflect, or just go give them a hug and say thank you.
So I have conversations with him every week, man. Like we keep up. Obviously, we all got dads that like to preach. I think that's just natural part about being a dad. But when you, like you said, you take those 5 minutes to reflect and thank them, then you're like, oh shit, they made these sacrifices. So now what am I doing with my time in my life to show respect to those sacrifices? Because that shit is so valid and important. Like, I feel like no matter how young or old you are, there comes a time when it hits you when you're like, it could be even as a sad way, but it could even be reason maybe until you might not reach that point until maybe they're gone. Like, you know what I mean? Like where you're like, oh shit, they did all this for me. You know what I mean? Like, so while my parents are alive now, like I'm working extremely hard to make sure that I do what the fuck I can do to not only better myself and my future family, but like to show respect to the sacrifices that they make. Cause they say it all the time, like, yo, we did all this for you guys. We did all this for you guys.
Yeah.
Like, and they say that like loosely, but like they really did some shit, bro. Like they really sacrificed.
They made those decisions knowing that they might not even see the results. They made those decisions knowing that it's for 20 years down the road, and a lot of people, and even myself, I struggle to commit to things that I have to wait a year for. I struggle to commit to things that I have to wait a month for because now we have this microwave mentality, and that's why microwave mentality where we want everything now. Where I love this topic because now it's putting us back in check with our roots. Where these people made decisions for 20 years down the road, and us making it happen is, our reward to them, our gift to them. Why they on a big timeline? We haven't been in this country for that long. We haven't been in this country for that long, so it makes sense why we don't know a lot of the, I guess you could say, like financial literacy and knowing like how money really works and how, going into business for yourself really pays off in the end. We don't, like as a culture, as
when you say we, you're referring to us, or you're referring to like Dominicans or like immigrant parents? Like who's we?
I'm referring to people who, and even if you were born here, you don't have to come from the country, but people who relied on society or the school system to teach or to lead. Not so much teach, but to lead, because to put into perspective, our parents came here. They never went to an American school system.
Yeah.
They never went through that. So they had some sort of expectation that just because they were here, it was better than over there. To me, it comes from one, respecting their moves. And then two, honestly, looking back and picking apart what I wish could be done different. So, and then that kind of creates my hunger as far as I pick apart and dissect what I love about my culture. I pick and dissect about what I love about how I was raised.
Which is, sorry to interrupt you, but that has to go with like the last episode about being yourself, bro. Sometimes you get lost in the sauce and like you forget you're Dominican and you're from New York, and like you don't have to be the stereotypical Dominican from New York, but bro, like you gotta be proud of who you are and where you come from. So reflect that, what you wear, how you talk, how you act, like don't try to follow the trends, bro. Like me hearing you speak is reminding me of the episode we just talked about, which is directly correlates.
Yeah. So it's also this episode to touch upon is that mindset and that hunger. So like even if I've gone to jobs, I hear job interviews, I hear that as soon as they find out I'm an immigrant, they automatically associate that with, oh my God, I love hiring immigrants.
Yes.
They work so hard. You guys are so passionate. Like,
Facts.
You guys really get after it.
Facts.
And like that mentality is what I want to touch upon, because even if, you know, your family's been here for 500 years, there's that one person that came to this land. There's that one person that had that hunger, that if your family's in a good position, it's because of them. And that mindset has been passed down because of them.
Real.
So, like, that's the thing I really want to touch upon, and that's the thing I really want to tune into. It's that sense of urgency to create.
Yeah, we gotta go, because I feel like, again, sorry for interrupting you, but
No,
I gotta say, like, in terms of me, my culture, my people, Dominicans, like, we're behind. We're in a way, we're behind in the educational system. We're behind. I'm speaking in general here, but this is what I feel. I feel like we're behind in the business culture, behind in like the impact on society. Like our music is great and all that, but like I was just talking about this with a client that I had the other day. She's Dominican as well, and she's like, yeah, there's not really a lot of people in Ohio that are Dominican. Bro, why? There's a couple Dominican barbershops, a couple Dominican restaurants like in a couple areas in Ohio. Why am I not like seeing this being promoted more? Why am I not like, do you think it's because of the mindset that we have of like, well, our parents made it, so they came to the States, they provided for us, they took care of their job. Now we are in the group of, go to college, get your degree, get a regular job. Should we be pushing to start businesses? Should we be pushing to start podcasting, create music that's going to influence people? Like, is that what you're trying to hit on, the urgency? Because we're like...
No, 100%. I want to touch upon that urgency because I feel like in order for you to set your future, you got to know your history.
Bang.
So, like, if you come to this country, like, you should know how this country was built if you feel like you want to make an impact or you feel like you want to grow into something successful in your terms. So as far as understanding this country, it was built by entrepreneurs. Like there wasn't an economic system, there wasn't a financial structure, there wasn't any of that. It was built by entrepreneurs. You had in the oil industry, you know, Rockefeller. In the financial industry, JP Morgan Chase, which is Chase Bank. The financial structure for today, you have, you know, Ford, which is the cars. You have Vanderbilt with the railroads, Carnegie, who had U.S. Steel. So you got to suppressed, yes. And I think that's why we're in the negative, because we come from one country to this one, and we depend on them to live a different lifestyle.
But at the same time, me and you, there's a bunch of us that are this age that are just being comfortable. Now that all this technology and social media is out, like bro, get the fuck up and go make some shit happen. Like how your people came to this country and started making some shit happen. My parents came to the country not knowing everything that we know now, but they still made some shit happen. How are we okay with just relaxing? How are we okay with just, I'm gonna settle for this job here and like let this happen? Like, bro, I'm about to get tight because like it's real though. We're in the negatives because people aren't thinking about more powerful moves, bro. About ownership, about genuinely impacting shit, but not forgetting who you, by paying respect to your past, but like, all right, now let's look into the future. How the fuck are we gonna set some shit in stone where it's gonna shake some shit up? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're saying, oh, how this country was built, like the Rockefellers and all that. That's all gravy. Like, yeah, they did their shit, and this country's operated like a business, but it's operating a business in a way that is making all of us fucking employees.
100%. That's exactly what I was gonna touch upon.
Okay.
And what they want you to do is they want you to stay in that comfort zone. That's why it is go to school, get a good grade, get a degree, get a job, because now you're a number in the system. But touching back to that, why you feel like we're not making moves, is because we're not experiencing enough, right?
Or being exposed to the information.
Being exposed to information.
That shit is out there more now, but it was kept hidden for a while.
Yeah.
So like I'm not gonna be here like, oh, I read all these books, I have all this information, but in reality, if you want to go learn about some shit, bro, all you gotta do is type it into Google.
Yeah.
So there should be nothing stopping from, you keep saying we, us. When I hear we, I'm thinking like Dominicans or Hispanics or like African American, like our minority group, because this really resonates with our people right now, just because of the shit that's going around, or like the people who are passing away that like had some impact or are making those moves. You know what I'm saying? So like when Hector says or I say that we're in the negatives, it's more like we have so much to go, so we gotta get up and like and try to make those generational moves to like really wake the fuck up and be like, yo, it's time to own some shit. It's time to build some shit. It's time to like gain ownership, because if not, bro, everybody after us, our kids and everything, are just gonna be fucking. They're gonna be brainwashed into being that employee in that rat race. And there's nothing wrong with being employees. There's great employees out there. We're fucking employees right now. Obviously, for the future though, like. You could be an employee and still have ownership of certain things. You just can't get comfortable, especially for us, especially knowing what my family sacrificed. You could probably agree to the same thing. So it's like it's on us to make some shit happen now.
Here's something I want to touch upon, because you said like, why aren't we making moves? Like, why are people like still doing the same thing? By we people, I mean Dominicans, but then I also just mean humans in general. You know, like regardless of where we're from, like I believe like we're all one.
We're
race,
all one.
let's say.
We're all one. But I just touch upon Dominicans and Hispanics and African Americans because that's they're. This is sensitive, bro. But it's just like
it's personal.
I resonate more. I go through on a daily, bro. Like I feel it on a daily basis. I resonate with it a little bit. Like. All my roommates aren't African American or Hispanic, but I love them like a brother. You know what I'm saying? They're like, yo, like where I come from is a little bit different from where you come from. It's all love, but at the end of the day, I still feel like I gotta work harder. You know what I'm saying? Because like, there is shit against me. There is all that. So that's what we mean by generational moves in terms of like shaking some shit up. Because these conversations, bro, they gotta be made. Like they gotta be talked about.
They gotta happen, and they gotta happen more frequently. And this should be a regular conversation. You know, like if I talk to some dude, or let's say I stop some dude in the street and we're talking, like, and this makes him feel uncomfortable. I don't really feel uncomfortable with what we're talking about. And it's crazy because, you know, I could kind of feel the vibe now. It's uncomfortable just talking about this in general because it gets so swept under the rug.
Not even swept under the rug, it gets taken the wrong way, bro. People get offended. People get like, oh, who are these two guys talking about this shit? Like, what do you guys know about? But it's like, we're not, like we say this every episode, we're not the experts, but we're just trying to start the conversation. Because we've heard people who are in our same places, like a John Henry, who's also Dominican in New York, like building businesses, like starting real estate. Like, the reason I fuck with him is because he's making the conversation like front of mind. Like we're having these conversations so other people can have these conversations, and then like
spark the brain.
That's all this is, man. It's like you said, uncomfortable talking about. Like I get heated. I don't get uncomfortable. I get angry because it's like, damn, I wish we have this shit on a more daily. You know what I mean? Like, damn, I wish I could come across or walk around New York and like or Brooklyn or people even in my own family, man. That sometimes just like are like, yo, Rich, like what the fuck are you talking about? Like they don't want to talk about that shit. Like they're like.
But the thing is too, you don't know what you don't know. So at the same time, like even though like we get angry about it, we can't get tight about it. You can't get too tight about it and the biggest thing, because I was just thinking like what differentiates us between, you know, people that are still there, still in the comfort zone is, or even taking what they've learned from their parents and not using it in a different way, is because they're not putting themselves in positions to experience more. Like if you look at our lives, you went to school in a different state, multiple different states, multiple different colleges.
Been around hella different people.
Yeah, exactly. And same here. And what I've noticed, or even here in the region that we're at, is that people are growing up in more of a stable environment. And I know like you like to touch about, dude, like we're starting in the negatives, and it's so true because, you know, out here there's obviously a lot less Latino people, a lot less Caribbean people, and like what you say, starting in the negatives, I feel like if you grow up in a good environment, you're taught the right mentality, you have enough resources, or someone just creates that pathway of success, you're starting at zero. And then you have people who aren't born in the best circumstances starting in the negatives. But like I would never say like, so let's say let's say like the boys that you're around now, all super cool. I love them all. I'm happy that they grew up the way that they grew up.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. That's
You
what
know?
we're trying to create for
Yeah,
ours.
exactly.
For our kids, for their kids. Like,
Exactly. Like, I'm happy you grew up that way, but I'm also thankful I grew up the way I grew up because it's made me think and make moves. Yes.
and find out where the gaps at. Find out what the correct moves that have to be made so that this shit could translate over as a regular basis type of thing, or like set the standard. We talked about being yourself,
Yeah.
setting the standard to where like the people after me, my kids after me, their kids after me. It's no longer survival mentality. It's like, oh, we're comfortable, but I don't get it twisted. Like they still gonna have to work hard and everything, but it's like, we good. Like we own shit. You feel me? This is ours. I can pass this down.
Yeah.
Ownership and ownership for your family in terms of making sure that the environment that we grew up in New York doesn't have to be felt anymore. You know what I mean? Like that survival shit. That like you said, the boys I'm around now, they're super dope, cool people. They didn't feel that friction. They didn't feel that grind mentality. They do. Everybody grinds, bro. Life is hard for no matter where you're from. That's number one.
Hell yeah.
But it's just a little bit different. You know what I mean? It's just a little bit different, which is why we're having this conversation today about the generational moves. Because this conversation, if it's not had, bro, how is it ever gonna change? You know what I'm saying? And the most important thing is change, because when you really sit down and like, yo, we gotta make fucking power moves. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that's why I wanted to hit on with that. I mean,
Yeah, for sure. And the best thing that helps me, I think of it as a timeline. Like, we're first generation. Like, your parents were born outside this country. So if you look at it in a 200, 300 year span, where are we at? What's our responsibility? To set that standard for people to come. Because if we don't, then they're going to live the same lives that we did. The biggest thing that my dad always told me is, I do what I do to give you guys a better life than I had. And that's exactly what I'm just trying to pay forward, what I want to do. But at the same time, I want to cultivate and really understand this mindset, so that even if we do, or when we do get in that really comfortable position, we could still duplicate that mindset. Because I know, like, if you look at businesses that are passed down throughout families, and they get passed down to whatever, they're 4 generations in, the owners don't give a fuck about that company like the dude who started it, even though it's in the family, because he doesn't have the same mindset. He didn't build that shit himself, you know. So there's a lack of appreciation that comes when it goes down that line. So my goal is to really understand and hone in on how can I lock in this mindset, create the results I want to create, but then also pass that mindset down
to the families after you.
To the families after me.
Nah, bro, that's definitely important. I feel like you said on the timeline. I want to make sure, because you also mentioned earlier like how this country was built on entrepreneurship, and how we got to continue that mentality and stop running away from it in a way, like without even knowing. It's like they get the degree, they get the job, like that's all cool. And I don't mean to diss nobody or disrespect nobody. Like, again, I'm an employee myself. Like, it's fine being an employee. There's nothing wrong with it. But what I'm saying is, give yourself some space to be creative. Like with that last episode, I keep going back to, but like that entrepreneur mentality that you keep hitting on, the mindset is like building and creating shit. And that's part of being yourself. When you think about being an employee and all that, and like, we just want people to be themselves and not follow the trends, and have these conversations, because that's what's gonna lead to beautiful shit like that people invent, whether it's like an invention, whether it's a building, or a house that you flipped, or like you're building, and it's in a way it's also building wealth. So not only are you tapping into your creative side of being yourself, but you're also tapping into your building the wealth for the family. So you're winning on both sides.
Yeah.
And the time shit that you hit on, the entrepreneurship shit, for me personally, I don't know the details about how this country was built, but you have a good foundation on it because you went in and tapped into like researching and all that. So I think it's a good idea for you to share wherever you got some of that information from. That way somebody who's listening could actually go out and listen to it too.
No, 100%. I've always was a little nerd when it came to history, because they always say, I'm sure you've heard it from your social studies teacher in high school, whatever. They say you don't know your future till you know your history, because history repeats itself. So, biggest documentary, easiest way to learn, get a good foundation, is called The Men Who Built America. And if you understand that, then you understand the foundation of this country, and you understand why things are the way that they are. And once you have that understanding, then you understand how to make moves. Then you understand why, you know, big corporations or governments make these decisions, et cetera, et cetera. But just give yourself a foundation, especially if you're gonna live in this country. You have to know how it was built and the foundation of it.
Where did you watch it at though?
I watched it on YouTube. It wasn't on Netflix.
Okay.
So YouTube has like, you know, season 1, episode 1.
And it's called The Men Who Built America?
Yeah,
Okay.
the Men Who Built America.
Okay, and that's really good. I'm gonna go watch it because I haven't seen it. I feel like it's also cool when you can resonate with somebody who's maybe more on the ground. Those people are like history.
Yeah.
But what they're preaching is similar to what people are in today's world are preaching. What we're not preaching but having conversation about. It's like I have to mention like rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle. He's a rapper, a business owner, fucking mogul, like extremely smart guy. That's somebody that I resonate with. I listen to his music. I'm a little mad at myself for not being put on to him earlier. It's sad that he passed a couple weeks back, but like people are now on social media and everything, like talking about the messages that he was saying. Like I feel like we don't really are aware of what people are saying or trying to do with these conversations that we're having today up until it's too late to be like, oh, yo, I respect what you're saying right now. Let's actually talk about this. Oh, now that he's, like, I get RIP to him, now that he's gone, people are like, yo, Nipsey said this? This is how we gotta be moving? Ownership, building shit, like, fucking, like, generational wealth, like, all that. He was hitting on topics, bro, that you never hear. He's from LA, and, like, I don't know about Slauson and Crenshaw too much, but like I'm assuming that the average mindset in that area wasn't what he was spitting. So it was hard to translate. So when you say these shows of like, oh, like JP Chase with Morgans or the Rockefellers and all that, that might be hard to translate to our people or kids our age, and no matter where you're from, but like people who are in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s. So I mentioned like a Nipsey Hussle because you guys could also go on YouTube and check out some of his videos or his messages or his documentaries. And it might make a little more sense to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because he was in a lot of his videos that he was also talking about like kind of generational moves of the ownership of what you could pass down, how to eat the right way. Like all this knowledge that, like I said, we started in the negatives of not knowing, bro. Like I graduated college like within the last year, and the amount of reading has gone up just because I'm aware now of how much I don't know. All I know is that I don't know. When you hear a bell or when you get a call from your boss or from your teacher, you're expected to do this type of work.
Yeah.
Like it's all molding you into somebody to be controlled.
Yeah.
And if you're controlled, you can't pass down, in my opinion, what you want to pass down to your families. Am I wrong or?
I don't think you're wrong at all, because if this country was built from business owners and then it turned to industrial age where they made more people employees, right? And then you have the school system that makes workers, and like that goes back to me, like this country is ran like a business. Yeah, like we need workers and employees in our economy, but at the same time, the more employees and more workers we have, the more limited people are getting that wealth. Makes sense? Because there's less ownership, more workers. Less ownership, more workers. Now there's a few people, you know, so it goes back to what I told you last week, where 95% of people are on the left side of the spectrum as far as employees and small businesses, but the money, 95% of the money in the economy is made from business owners and investors. But not to get like too deep into it, that's just to make you aware of like how the country works, and it's not even a bad thing. It's a capitalistic economy. It's made like,
again, those people who are in power, all they want is people to be employees. They don't want people to be like go against the grain and be like, yo, let me start this clothing line, let me start this business, this restaurant or something, because it could potentially grow to the size of to the people who are making the most of the money in this country, and then they're a threat, and then they're a target. And then they're, you know what I'm saying? So like, I think you getting deep into the history is extremely important, but we got to be able to translate to the people who are listening, to the people who might not understand it quite right, that what we're trying to talk about really is just understanding that being yourself, and then looking at things from a different perspective of like ownership and like building wealth and like not being mass manufactured is what we're trying to translate. I feel like it's extremely important for people who are listening to be like, oh, what they're saying is like, I gotta be careful with this money. Or let me use this money here. Let me invest this money here. Let me build this. Let me create this. Because that's being forgotten, bro. Like creating shit and like building stuff is being forgotten. I feel like it's always gonna be around, but you really think about, like you said, most of the money is being generated by a certain amount of people. Because there's not enough people going against the grain, I feel like.
Yeah, there's not enough people stepping out their comfort zones and acting on gifts that they were given. Like, you have many things that, as far as traits that you can find a way to monetize. You know, that's why they say this is the best country, because it's a free enterprise system. Free enterprise system. Everyone has that same opportunity. Like you just said, if you start something, it can get as big as.
But you're never gonna know until you start it. Until you
try.
tap into yourself, the being yourself that we talked about last week. And when you start looking internally, you start looking, oh damn, I like this color. Oh damn, like what if I tried this out? Or what if I like created this? That's being yourself instead of being like, oh well, Kylie Jenner's doing this way. Like let me try that. And she's extremely successful. Like shout out to her, Kylie Jenner. Like extremely successful. But that's just a little example of like, we're again like continuously, and it's good to copy people. Like copying is important because if they have a blueprint that's working, like follow it.
Success leaves clues.
Exactly, 100%.
And success principles don't.
But just
change.
as much as possible, try to tap into your own shit. I feel like, because in order for you to pass down shit to your family and those generational moves, it's only right to really to try as many things as possible. Don't just get comfortable and be able to transfer it down. Because again, conversation is like generational moves, but at the same time, it's like those moves can't be made unless you tap into your possibilities or the gifts that you were given by God or by whatever you guys believe in. Like, just tapping in here and there. You know what I'm saying?
You got to be in tune.
He passed away, right? But now that he has ownership to all his shit,
His family gets all.
His family gets all that. You know what I'm saying? So like, do you think that the moves that you're making now, as a minority, as a Dominican, like all that, like going against the grain, do you think it kind of resonates with what he was trying to say?
And if it doesn't resonate more with what he's specifically saying in the songs, it resonates from the same type of mindset or the same type of like, energy that I want to give back and
which is the generational moves. Like he gave back to his community. All the money he was making, all the business that he was moving was in his community. So if that's not the best example of generational moves, or like trying to shift the culture, or trying to shift the community to like think a certain way or like make a certain move. Again, we're not trying to make people think a certain way. It's just more like, look at this conversation and see how it makes you feel. See how it resonates with you. Like, what kind of ideas does this spring in your head? Because we're just trying to plant the seeds right now. And maybe eventually it'll grow into something.
And if you've been ignoring something that you've been wanting to do, this conversation might get you mad. And I kind of want you to take a second and understand. Are you really mad at us? Or are you really mad at yourself for not acting on it and suppressing it for so long? Generational moves.
Do your research. And this podcast is going to cause a lot of friction here and there because what we're talking about is not the normal conversation, I feel like. Now, I'm not putting ourselves like different from people because we're the same as everybody else, bro. We're just fed up or like numb to the normal way. You know what I mean? Like
we see the gap.
You see the gap, bro. I see it every fucking day, man. Like that shit hurts. Like,
and once you become aware of it, the more and more and more you see it.
Trying to change the mentality because, bro, these conversations gotta be had, bro.
Because that's the only thing that we could really do as people is share thoughts and just try to spark, make people aware, try to make people aware to make their own decisions, create their own habits. Like that's all we could really do because you got to be able to lead yourself first, and then you got to be able to start focusing on leading a team of people around you,
which all needs action. You can't just, we're talking about it and people are like, y'all got the podcast, y'all talking about it. But behind the scenes, we're putting in fucking work. Like we're not out here like talking about this shit. Like some of the stuff that I hit on is because I'm personally like, I failed. Like I don't even know if I hit on this in any episode, but like I've already failed at a business like this year. You know what I'm saying? Like first year out of college, like online business, like I fucking failed. Like that shit was hard, bro, but I tried it and I'm happy. I'm gonna wear it on my chest. because I fucked up and I learned from it. So now I might not do it again, but like at least I know how that process works. But I'm trying, bro. I'm trying here. I'm trying there. It's not me trying to be different. It's not me thinking I'm better than somebody. But I just see the fucking gap that you said. There's a gap, bro. We gotta fucking catch up because if we're trying to not necessarily take over, but be equal on an equal playing field with everybody else, we have to work 3 times harder right now in order for that shit to maybe we see the fruition in like 3 to 4 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years. Because what we're working on now, bro, is not for now. Like, it's not for now.
We might not even see any of the results that we're trying to create as far as generational moves. Like, and you have to be at peace with that. That you're putting in work that you might die for. You don't even get to see.
Bro, grinding, bro, and it takes time. This success shit, these conversations, they all take time, man. So that's why we're talking about it. Some people might be like, oh, that episode's whack. And it's cool. If you fuck with us, cool. If you don't fuck with us, cool. But at least you heard the conversation that I know for a fact is going to make you feel some type of way. I mean, hopefully that way is like, oh, shit, what am I doing? Let me look at my shit because I resonate with those guys. They're just like me. Or what they're talking about is real. We just don't talk about it too often. So that's all we're trying to do, bro. We're just trying to spark something. That's really it on my end.
We don't really talk about a lot of like what we're inputting to be able to output these types of messages.
That's why I asked for the documentary. Yeah.
So yeah, the documentary, Men Who Built America. One of the books that I highly recommend by Robert Kiyosaki is called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and what he talks about is he grew up with 2 fathers, and one was obviously one was his best friend's dad. And he was a wealthy dude who owned businesses, and then he had his dad, who was a teacher for many years. So he talks about the different things that they said and how to apply them in life, and he also talks about a little bit of financial things.
Book.
If you're a person whose ego gets in the way a lot, like me, I work on that every day. There's an amazing book by my favorite author, Ryan Holiday. It's called Ego is the Enemy. So it just talks about a lot of...
I gotta read this one. I haven't read this one yet.
It talks about a lot of situations as far as... and it uses people in history. And if they thought a different way or if they gave into their ego, what drastic change could have happened as far as not creating the success that they had, et cetera, et cetera. So again, that's Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. We're going to do a lot on our end to try and pump out things that you guys can go read.
Yeah, whatever. We're trying out here, bro. We're trying. Like,
Yeah.
That's important, too. I was going to hit on, like, if you're listening and you got feedback, man, like, obviously you can go ahead and follow us on social media. Our Instagram right now is _leaving the comfort zone. My personal Instagram is _Rich Ride. Your personal Instagram, you don't even know about heart. It's
Hold up. _XHJM.
our personal Instagram, the Leaving the Comfort Zone Instagram. You guys ever have a question or maybe feel some type of way about the message we try to bring across to you guys today or the previous episodes, man, don't be afraid to reach out or repost some of our stuff if you fuck with it. If you don't fuck with it, that's cool too. I mean, I'm really trying to generate a positive, and you guys listening will know that we're really trying to spread some positive vibes here, like some good energy.
For sure. We come from a good place.
Yeah, it's all from a good place, man. So definitely follow us on there, repost, subscribe to the podcast. I know when you subscribe, you get an instant message saying that the podcast is up. We've been getting a lot of those lately.
All you got is your last name.
So what are you really working for?
Yeah. And it is what you make it.
That's that, man. Generational moves.